You're listening to Heart with Saima, the podcast show for people searching for that courageous person within us who wants to be inspired by listening to stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. I'm Saima Dillon, your host. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to be here. Let's dive right in. My guest today is Chad Harrigan. He believes that greatness is a journey, not a destination. He promises that you're going to grow beyond what you thought was possible. He will not be more committed to your success than you are, but he will not quit if you won't. He promises that if you come willing and ready to work, you can have, be, or do whatever you want in life. You can create the mindset, relationships, body, business, and experience that you really want. You can finally find some peace and be good with who you are, comfortable in your own skin. Whether you realize it or not, you have the answers inside of you. His job is to step into the space with you. That's where all the hard questions and real answers are. And he will help you figure it all out. Without any further waiting, let me bring Chad on. My guest today, Chad Harrigan.
Hey, how are you?
Welcome to Heart with Saima. I'm doing
Having
awesome.
me.
How are you doing?
For having me. I'm good. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you, to go into those deep conversations with you. And as always, the pleasure is mine. It's my honor to have you here. Um, Chad, you did go through a surgery recently. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I went through two surgeries actually. I had two major surgeries in 3 months. Both of them were surprises, and I almost died twice.
Oh, wow.
So I'm really good being here right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think you're doing a whole lot better, and I'm glad you're here to touch lives, to share your story. So Chad, let me hand over this screen to you and let you share about your life. So here you go.
Well, hey everybody. So since we're talking about making it through stuff, let's talk about how this year's kind of gone. Everybody's had a tough time for 2020. It has been frustrating for some, um, depression and anxiety causing for others. It has been extreme and horrible for a lot of people. But even in the midst of that, it's also been a year of a lot of growth, a lot of wins, a lot of strength, a lot of lessons. This actually wouldn't be my first time having a hard situation to get through. Um, so I'm a life consultant, and that means I'm a life coach, certified, and I consult people with their businesses and their purpose. What's interesting and fun for me is I'm not a business coach. So I'm not here to tell you how to do branding and marketing or any of that. I really focus on who people are, what makes you you, and how that plays into how you run a business, how that plays into how you maneuver through your career, how you are able to still live life while being a parent, while dealing with grief, while dealing with addiction, while dealing with things like ADHD, new things like getting married, having kids. For me, my journey here in this space started when my son passed. His name was CJ. October 9th, and let me back up. December 12th, 2012 changed my life. We had our son. He was the first baby born in in Dallas, Texas on Christmas morning. Well, not Christmas morning, but on that date, Christmas season. And I went from being somebody who said, I'm never going to have kids, to falling in love immediately with this little tiny human. And I became a stay-at-home dad. I had a mobile app company. I did branding and marketing consulting. And I did that for years. This changed everything. My priorities shifted. Nothing else really mattered. My wife and I moved to a small town called Sonora, Texas. There are literally 2 stoplights. I believe that there are less than 2,000 people in that whole little town. My wife, my son, and I were the Black community of Sonora, Texas, just the 3 of us. It was an experience that I will never trade. I hated being there. And then by the time we left, I absolutely loved it, because I was able to get time with my son and my family that we would not have had we stayed in Dallas, Texas. On October 9th, 2014, my life changed again. My son had a fever. We had put him in daycare. He had started getting some friends, having a ball. He really enjoyed going to preschool. They sent him home with a fever, because you don't want to get the other kids sick. I take my son to the hospital about 2 or 3 days later, because his fever won't go away. That was a Monday. By Wednesday morning, we were in San Antonio at a children's hospital. Later that Wednesday, my son was dead. Needless to say, that destroyed us. I shut down my company, got rid of all my clients. We left Texas. I went to Alabama, where my parents had moved to and they live. And I hid in my old bedroom for about 30 days, just hid from the world. And I grieved. And we've been on this journey of grief and learning to rebuild life, rediscovering who we are, working through some of the things that we thought we understood and thought we knew, with new questions, with new feelings and emotions. How do I continue doing this thing that I think I care about when the rest of my life's falling apart? Now, some of the things that used to matter to me don't matter. What do I do now? How do I put those pieces back together? How do I put new pieces there? How do I discover what's important to me now? What do I do? Can I make it through this? How do I find hope again? How do I dare to hope again? How do I risk hoping again and putting myself out there for the possibility of my heart being broken all over? Should I even dare to take a chance to have another family, to have another kid, to do this business, to get married again, to try for this dream? How do you make it through when everything falls and crumbles? And in that, learning those lessons, going to therapy, learning the importance of having a support system, allowing people in, working through my feelings and letting them happen when they happen, not putting pressure on myself to get over stuff in a time that's comfortable for others. really doing some introspection and being honest and upfront with how I really feel and not worrying about pretending. Working through all of that allowed me to put the pieces together step by step. Out of that, I discovered coaching as a profession. Out of that, I've discovered how there are more people like me than there are that aren't. There are more people that I can relate to and have connection with because everybody's going through their worst day of their life. And it doesn't have to be mine, but the feelings are the same. The darkness is similar. The the hopelessness is almost the same. And I can relate and I can love them through that. I can care for them through that. I can serve and help them through that and walk them through some of the same things that helped because we had people that were there for us. And so I've been able to make my career through paying it forward. And it's been out of the hardest thing came probably some of the best things that have ever happened in my life. So
I just can't. I'm just stunned, Chad. I'm just so sorry for your loss, first of all. And yeah, I mean, I I can't. I just don't have words. I feel this platform right here is for you to share your story. Um, I can't imagine the grief when you lost that that child who you loved so much and who was your whole world. How you I can't even imagine that the space a parent what a parent goes through when you go through something so severe as losing a child who a child who changed your whole world, a child that gave you hope, that was your reason to move forward. And losing that child, I can't imagine what you must have gone through. And to you went into isolation for 30 days to grieve. And I know that it, it- it- I mean 30 days are just not enough.
no, and I'll be very specific. It wasn't 30 days to grieve. I had a nervous breakdown during those 30 days. A
Yeah.
legit nervous breakdown. Um, I attempted suicide during those 30 days. And it was the start of my grief journey. It's an interesting thing because you said it right. 30 days is not enough. Um, or it may be. The crazy thing that you discover is it really is not up to anyone but you.
Yeah.
So when you're grieving, um, everybody has heard of the stages of grief. Here's the thing: the stages of grief weren't created for people that are grieving. The stages of grief was created and put together for people that aren't grieving to understand what grieving people may be going through. There is no set time. There's no time frame. There's no time limit. And for a lot of people, the uncomfortability surrounding grief is more about the people who are in proximity to those that are grieving than it is about the people experiencing the grief itself. So, where a lot of people don't know what to say to make it better and they want to, sometimes, a lot of times, they're well meaning. Most of the time, they're well meaning. You know, people want to be supportive, they want to be there. A lot of times, though, it's because your grief makes them uncomfortable. They want to fix it. Part of it's for you, but part of it's for them. One of the things that I really wish we did more was talk about death, how to handle death, how to help with death. Sometimes it's enough to just be present. You don't actually have to say anything. There's not actually anything you can say to fix it for the person. And people will say some of the most inappropriate, outlandish, or sometimes hilarious things when it comes to dealing with that. One of the worst stories I heard, and it wasn't towards us, thank God, but a friend of mine lost a brother, and his father said that 3 months after his brother had died, they were in church and his wife was crying. And somebody leaned over to her and said, "You're still crying about that? I thought you'd be over that by now." Had nothing to do with them caring about her feelings, everything to do with them. When we had had CJ's life celebration, one of my mother-in-law's friends, real tiny lady, I think she's probably not taller than 5'1", the sweetest little person. She comes up to me and she says, "You know, there's a Bible verse that I think would really be comforting to you. I don't know what it says, and I don't know where it is, but if you should ever read it, it'll make you feel a whole lot better." And she walked off. And about 3 times during the rest of that day, she kept coming up to me. "I still can't remember that verse, but when I do, it's going to make everything better. It's going to make you feel so good." And she really meant well. She was really trying. We don't equip people enough with, here's how you help somebody when they're grieving. Here's what you say or don't say. Here's what you can do. Here's how you can approach it. Or, hey, here's how to deal with your own feelings. So you get strangers, you get friends that are well-meaning, then you get relatives, people that are in that close inner circle. They don't always know what to do. I caught my mother leaving the room to cry when I would cry. And it wasn't until I saw her that it dawned on me she would always leave when I cried. And when I asked her about it, she said, "Well, you're feeling so much grief. I don't feel like it's fair for me to grieve because I should be focused on you." And I had to let her know we're grieving together. I want to know that it bothers you as much as it bothers me. I want that. I want to experience that with you because you're also hurting. I'm hurting, but you're also hurting. I care about you too. This was your grandson and my son. We can share in this together. And it's in that camaraderie. It's in that knowing that even if you don't feel exactly what I feel, you feel something. You feel for me. You feel that void and that loss. Sometimes that alone can be comforting. It's an interesting thing for people to learn. There's no fixing it. The grief doesn't go away. I can't even always say that it lessens. I can say, at least from my experience, it's less frequent. It's 2020. This was 2014. I still grieve just as strongly, but it may not be as long. It may not be as often. for a while, all you see is the grief. All you see is the darkness. All you see is the anxiety and the depression that it causes. All you see is the anger and the hurt. Over time, and with help, thank God for therapy, I started to see more than just that one bad moment. It's easy for the weight of that bad moment to become so huge. It outweighs all of the good. I still had 2 amazing, awesome years. I was that dad that took 15,000 pictures every day and videotaped every single thing he did as if he was the first kid to ever walk and sing. Right. I was that dad. And I have all those memories. I have all that to look at and still laugh, still smile. I remember the first time we took him to somebody's house. It was our first adult outing as parents. And it was a game night. There was a ton of other parents and couples there. So all the kids are in the living room. They're playing. We're playing a board game. All of a sudden, my son comes in and he is covered head to toe in Vaseline. His clothes are covered. Everything is covered. And he's so proud of himself. Look what I did. And we freaked out and panicked. And it was the most hilarious thing. And I remember the guy whose house we came over was taking pictures and video of it because he thought it was hilarious. Do you know, I had so much grief. It was probably a good 5 years before I even remembered that moment. Yeah. Because the grief was all I saw. But working through it, dealing with it, facing it, letting it be a part of my story and a part of my life, it wasn't this big, scary giant after a while. It was just somebody else that's there in my house. Somebody else that's here. The grief is a part of my story now. And I found the space again for the joy and the happiness that my son brought. And I think it's very important that we do that when hard times come. And it doesn't matter what it's the death of. It could be the death of a marriage or a dream, a career. It's going to be the hardest day for you. But it doesn't get to outweigh all the good that's been in your life unless you allow it.
When you lose hope, how do you find it again?
It's gonna sound cliche and stupid, but it's literally a one step at a time. Like, there's an interesting thing called hope science or hope theory. There's a literal process for creating hope. Which has been, for me, one of the most interesting things, discovering that and not fully through my journey, but through my education in this area of mental and emotional health. Part of it, I break it down for me into 3 major parts: clarity, strategy, activity. So the first thing is awareness, clarity. What is this? What is causing the hopelessness? What is the reality of my situation versus the feelings of my situation? Do feelings actually matter that much? Yeah, they hurt. Yeah, they're good or they're either pleasurable or they're painful or we're neutral to them. But hopelessness matters in context to what you think is possible or not possible, either because of a situation or an experience. So if an experience tells me I don't have the hope of ever doing or becoming or having or experiencing, then for me, that feeling of hopelessness communicates that to me and paralyzes me. If I get to a place where I can understand in that moment where that trauma happened, on a scale of 1 to 10, my anxiety was a 50. My fear was a 50. That challenge and that struggle was a 50. But now, outside of that moment, when I think about that past trauma or experience, yeah, that may be a 50, but am I safe now? Even though the memory of it hurt, the residual pain of that I still feel, but am I safe in this space right now, outside of that moment? Is it possible for me to do and have and do those things now, even if it's harder because of that trauma? And a lot of times what you'll find is if we can separate the feelings of being in the moment to where we are now remembering that moment of the past, now we're back down into that 1 to 10 range, and that's more workable. Now I can start to find and create some space to have some hope. Okay, I had that job, I had my dream job, I ruined it, or it was taken from me. The thing I worked so hard for, could I ever dare to do that again? Well, outside of that moment, do you still have that same issue? Is that same thing present? It may not be. Yeah, you're hurt. Yeah, you've been scarred, but are we at a 50 or maybe we're at a 7 now, since we're not in that place still? That gives me about 3 points of hope. There's that little gap. And it's an incremental thing. So then once I get the clarity and I can distinguish between my feelings and what's the actual reality, and I acknowledge, yeah, this is going to be harder because of this, or it's going to feel harder because of this, but I can still do it. Then we get to strategy. How do we define success? Based on what we want. What or who do we need to be successful? Where's the challenge that's going to come up? How do I deal with it? How do I work through it, above it, or around it?
So, Chad, I mean, if a person is striving, you feel like you're stuck in this place. You have aspirations, you have dreams, or you hope to take your life in a certain direction, and and how do you get rid of those blockages of that you're feeling in your energy, which is hindering your progress and your movement and your success?
So, in truth, there's that word feelings again. Feelings, how do I say this?
Are these like emotional blockages?
They can be. They can be. And we're not saying your feelings don't matter, but we are also saying at the same time, screw your feelings.
Maybe literally say.
Literally. So I want you to imagine that you're in a car, you're in a minivan of some sort, you're driving, and there are about 10 kids in the back of that minivan going crazy. They are having the time of their lives. They're jumping in the car. They are screaming, throwing things, having fun. They're just going bananas. You are driving this minivan and you're on a windy road on a steep, sheer cliff in the mountains with no guardrails. Your job is to get to the end of that road safely. These kids are so loud and they're super distracting. You have two options. You can either turn around to address the kids and give them the whole, don't make me turn this car around, don't make me pull this car over, shut up and sit down. But that means you take your eyes off the road. Or you can let the kids do what they're doing and keep your eyes on the road anyway.
And stay focused.
What do?
Stay focused.
That's the logical answer. Those kids represent your feelings. The car is your life. The windy road is the challenge, the trauma, the experience, the stuckness. In truth, logically, yes. Keep your eyes focused on the destination. Is it hard? Yes. Is it easy? No. Can it be done though? Yes. So the thing is, working through with tools like therapy, mindfulness, some type of journaling practice, really having the discussion with yourself and analyzing, what do I want? What do I need to get it? What's going to stop me if I allow it? How do I work through, above, or around it? Sometimes you just push your way through. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes I need a plan A and a plan B, a plan C. So that's our strategy. If I know I want to lose weight, I feel insecure and depressed because of my weight, that depression demotivates me, which keeps me from exercising. That lack of exercising makes me feel guilty, ashamed, or embarrassed and gain more weight, which makes me want to lose weight, but makes me less likely to focus and go lose the weight because I still feel depressed, insecure, demotivated. All of this is because I feel. Can I go work out? Yes. Can I get a trainer? Yes. Can I eat better? Yes.
And that's what depression, anxiety, everything is, right?
Yes. But what do people that successfully start working through anxiety do? That the ones that others don't? They get some type of help. So instead of focusing on this is how I feel, or if I feel in the mood to do it, I get therapy. I get help, resources, tools, support, people, medicine, if I need it. I don't put the pressure on myself to feel that I have to figure it out alone. I don't create the guilt for myself when I felt that I had to do it alone. I had to have the willpower, like all the other people I see who I think have the willpower and don't need help. And I get what I need. And instead of worrying about whether this person does it this way or that way, I do whatever's going to work for me so I get what's important to me at the end.
So, Chad, someone has on Facebook just said that what should we replace I feel with?
Replace I feel with I can.
And they
And
say
by that, I mean, I may feel that it's hard, but I can at least do this. I may feel I can't do it by myself, but I can find some assistance. I may feel that I'm not dependable, or this is just something that I'm not able to do. I can use some type of tool. For example, morning routines are good. I'm not always the best at doing morning routines, but I want to meditate. I want to exercise. I want to do some type of reading for the day. Instead of trying to leave it to my own willpower, acknowledge where I am and say what I can do. I can decide and agree to at least do a little something whenever I think about it throughout the day. So it may not be a morning routine, but can I at least get one of those things done on that list?
So work around.
Yeah. So we work around. I know. Okay. Have you ever played a video game before?
Ages ago.
Okay. So ages ago, Nintendo had a game called Contra. And the most popular thing with Contra was a cheat code. And if I remember correctly, it was up, up, down, down, left, right, A, B, select, start. And it gave you infinite lives. And this was the most popular thing when I was a kid when we had Nintendo. If you look at life like a game, what are the cheat codes? So the cheat codes come in people. Do I need somebody to call me every day? Hey, did you do this? Hey, how are you feeling? Hey, did you eat this? Did you eat it all today?
Accountability coaches, life coaches,
or just partners, or alerts in my phone. If I'm not going to remember, if I'm going to let myself off the hook, well, having an actual alert, an alarm, a chime, 2 alarms, 5 alarms, 10 of them.
But Chad, you just mentally start ignoring all those alerts.
Not necessarily. Sometimes you do, but it's about figuring out what's going to work for you. So if you're a person that does ignore the alarm, but I'll listen to the person that nags me or reminds me. It may feel like nagging when I don't want to get out and exercise and I don't want to go for a walk, but I'll go do it. I'll be mad about it. I'll be upset and annoyed.
At the end of the day, it is like you said, our feelings, our mind, right? I feel our mind sabotages us.
Yeah.
It can be our biggest enemy.
Yeah. So think about this. Let's take the exercising again, because that's one that's really common with a lot of people that are dealing with some type of trauma or grief or sadness or challenge. Because it's a lot of times we're so focused on motivation, and motivation is again feeling like wanting to do it. What's my motivation? What's the feeling? If I cared less about how it felt and whether I felt like doing it and just did the thing, then it could be a much better experience for me. So let's say I know that I want to get down to 200 pounds, right? I weigh 253 right now. Now, as of this morning, I want to get down to 200 pounds. But thinking about 200 pounds, that's a lot. Can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
Rather, what if we break that down into smaller bite-sized chunks, activity goals? So I'm not putting the pressure on myself to lose the full 200 pounds, to get down to 200 pounds, to lose the 53.
Yeah.
But I'm saying I may not feel like I can do that, get down to 200, but what I can do is I can walk for 30 minutes.
And just set small goals.
Exactly.
And also
focus on the activities.
Understanding your own weaknesses, right?
You have to acknowledge them, and it's okay to have them.
Yeah.
So when I'm saying, if life is a game, cheat. If, you're just figuring out what's going to work for you instead of worrying about what works for others or how it should look or what you should be doing, And you are willing to go through those extra steps because I know I have this shortcoming or this weakness, or I'm not as motivated in this area, but I want that. I want this. I may not do the things I need to do, but I'll do the things I want to do because need is not enough. People don't do what they need to do because they don't want to. They'll do what they want every day, all day. I need to lose 53 pounds. I want pizza. I need to go to therapy. I want scotch. So it's in really analyzing what is it going to take for me where I am with all my hangups, my issues, and my quirks to get that thing that I say matters to me. Do I need to go through some extra effort? Do I need to talk to some extra people? What is it going to take for me to do that? And am I willing to do that extra that it takes?
I think it is those small goals, right?
Absolutely.
Write them down. Every single day, start writing, spending that time with yourself. Start putting your, unloading all your thoughts and on paper. Because
Yeah.
once you have put them on paper, you've transferred them from your head on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Chad, we have someone who's asking. They've written, I still would like to understand how to snap out of feeling grief, trauma. My feeling sad gives me a payoff. I want to feel better. There is no payoff in not feeling. Can
Okay.
you give me a
So let me clarify. Well, I'm not saying you don't feel. Because remember, I still grieve. The grief is there, but I still have to live life. I still want to live life. I don't want to just sit in my grief all day, every day. One of the tools that really helped early on, because again, we're acknowledging that we feel. We're just not letting the feelings run the rest of our life. That's the bigger concept here. One thing that helped, and I thought it was the stupidest thing in the world when I first heard it until I tried it, was give yourself a time limit. And this was early on, when it was at its strongest. So let's say we're 30 days from the incident that caused the grief. We haven't showered. We've barely eaten. We're not really speaking to anybody. We're at a place where not only are other people concerned, we may be concerned for ourselves. It's a really dark place. Try giving yourself a time limit. Get up whenever you wake up and say, you know what? It's noon, or it's 3 in the afternoon, start of my day. I'm going to give myself 2-3 hours to feel all the feelings, cry all the tears, scream all the screams, have all the anger. But in 2 or 3 hours, I'm going to get up, brush my teeth, wash my face. I'm going to go get something to eat. I'm at least going to go into the living room. I'll at least go sit on the porch. And you start doing this in smaller increments. So we acknowledge our feelings, but we also acknowledge we can't just do this. So I force myself to say, hey, all right, let's cinch it up for right now. Let's at least go outside for 10 minutes. Let's at least give ourselves a contrast. Let's at least do something else. Surprisingly, it's going to sound silly for some people, but surprisingly, that change in environment, that change in activity, that change in focus can be enough to at least start to give us a little breathing room. And after a while of doing that, while we're out in the living room, on the porch, in the kitchen, just doing something different, out of that space where the grief lives, we eventually say, huh, well, while I'm out here, let me try this. I might as well do that. Let me at least get something to eat. You know, I actually am hungry. I am thirsty. Let me try watching TV. Let me try doing something. And those other things that we start to do start to add up. And we start creating a little bit more space and a little bit more space for our normalcy back in our lives.
I think it's so important to celebrate the small wins of life.
Absolutely.
And these small wins are literally small wins. And they could be you just, going for a small walk outside, even
Yeah.
if it's 10 minutes walk. It could
Yeah.
be just, you know what, go celebrate small win. Just go
Yeah.
to a drive-through of McDonald's and buy like $1 ice cream cone or something.
And it doesn't mean that you're going to feel great for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But for that bit of time, even if you're not feeling better, you're at least feeling something different. And that can create enough space for better to creep in.
Yeah, that's what the goal is, right?
That's the
Just
goal. And
create
it
that.
doesn't lessen the intensity when you're feeling the grief. I think we get caught up in what we expect it should be like. You know, there's a question I ask clients: does it matter what it looks like, or does it matter that the thing gets done? So does it matter if my life looks like everyone else's, that it looks quote unquote normal, or is it more important that I got that ice cream, that I had a laugh, I smiled a little, or at least wasn't crying for a little while, that I did go outside and get some sun on me, some fresh air, ate something.
Chad, I think what weighs human beings down is this pressure, this burden, these expectations of the universe, of
Mm,
I mean, there is just to be a certain way, to earn a certain income,
yeah,
to look around and what other people's lifestyles, or what and now of course what you see on social media, where all you're seeing is just the brightest moments, and you're not seeing, you're just seeing the glory. You're not seeing
exactly. You're not
what
seeing the struggle.
the struggle, and
Yeah,
getting up, and the doing, and that journey, what it took to get you to where you're trying to get.
yeah, absolutely. Um, once you start working through, after a while, one good thing that comes out of that grief journey, you start to realize what's important, what actually matters to you. And you'll find that a lot of the stuff that you thought was such a big deal before doesn't matter that much.
Yeah.
And it's okay. You know, um, I dare say I found my purpose through this journey.
And what's that?
I think my purpose is to help other people figure out how to kick back when life kicks you in the gut. How to learn that life doesn't get to just happen to you. You get to happen to life.
take over, take the control back from life, and you become that person who starts controlling. Chad, for the longest time, and I've gone through a lot of turbulence in this past decade of my life. You know, business hit. My older daughter, her journey had a
Mhm.
lot of turbulence. And like we were talking earlier, she's getting ready to launch her own podcast. And I'm really excited about that because I keep telling her that I'm I'm I've made so many mistakes, but at this point in time, I'm my daughter's biggest fan,
Yeah.
and I'm standing there rooting for her, and I'm standing right there to let her be who she's meant to be in this world, even though it's going to not fall within the parameters or the boundaries that I had visualized or uh, hoped for in her life. But she has not come into this world to live her life according to my parameters.
Yeah.
And so, it's there's been a lot of turbulence in this decade, but I think it takes once you start facing it and
Mm.
you say, okay, you know what, I'm going to shrug all this off, and
Mhm.
I'm going to look it in the face,
Mhm.
whatever has happened, and I'm going to write down and I'm going to put down where I foresee my life, what my dreams were, what my aspirations were. I'm not going to stay in that space where I grew up being taught to be just content, to be grateful. I feel that a certain aspect of gratitude holds you back. It makes you just be in your space and teach yourself to just, yes, to just be grateful for that space. But I feel that I started changing my life when I took myself out of that space where I said, no, I'm the architect of my own life, and I'm
Mhm.
going to change my story.
What's interesting about that is it's not the space that you're thankful for. It's not this. I'm not thankful for the trauma that happened to me. Nobody's going to be thankful for that. But who are you because of that? What did you learn about yourself because of that? What did you learn you can handle? What strength did you find because you kept living? You kept moving, you kept growing. What did you discover as you fought through being stuck? Because you have those moments where you're walking through the mud and you're thigh deep, and if you're using all your strength and it feels like you're not going anywhere, but eventually you start to, and what's happening is you're building those muscles. You're learning that you can handle more, you can take more, you're getting tougher.
But that's a very difficult place to be in.
Oh, God, yes.
And my place is nothing compared to what loss you must have faced losing your child. But
But they don't. Here's the thing, that's the thing that when we were talking earlier. Everybody's had their worst day of their life. They've had their worst thing, and it honestly, it doesn't matter. Is losing a, a car the same as losing a kid? No. But is it painful? Yeah. What if I built that car by hand? What if I saved up my whole, what if that was my dream car? And I didn't get that car till I was 86, and it took me that long to afford it. Is there pain there? Absolutely. There's pain. And it's yours.
and I think that's okay.
It absolutely has to be okay. Everything that I'm saying are things that worked for me and things that I learned. You could say, Chad, that's a load of crap. I don't agree with any of it. I hate what you're saying, and that wasn't my experience. That's okay too.
So, Chad, I have, and we are, time flies. Today's show was, of course, it has its emotional element as well, and but time does fly, and we are in the last few minutes of our show. I have a question here. It says, I have a question for our honorable guest. When when you be there, when you're there for someone when they are going through grief or tough time, what
Mhm.
is the right time to tell them, I need to get back my family, my responsibilities without hurting their feelings?
Is the person live right now? So I can ask them a question back and they can clarify?
Well, they're listening to this show live.
Okay.
So
This is interesting because I've been working with a client through this. The client wants to be supportive. Okay. So this person, if I'm correct, it sounds like you have a friend that's grieving. You want to be supportive, but you still have your own family and responsibilities. So there are a couple main nuances. There's a lot that a lot of details that could be present here. Your responsibility is to be a good friend, but it is not to fix or take on the other person's grief for them. You still have to replenish and take care of yourself. There's a concept of pouring from an empty cup. Once the cup is empty, it's empty.
there's
And
nothing.
if I don't refill that cup, if I don't refill my cup, I can no longer pour into others. So while you may want to be there for that person, it's okay to say, hey, I can do this from this time to that time, or I've only got so long. And it's going to have to be that, and they're going to have to be all right. You are not obligated to sacrifice your whole life and your family for them. And it doesn't make you a bad friend because you are going back to fill your cup, to take care of what you need for yourself. I can always come back later.
And I think that's very important to
You
understand,
have to.
that if your cup is not full, you have nothing to
You have
give.
nothing to give. And
Not
then
even to
you're
your
not good for them or you.
not to your children, not to your family, not to
Yeah,
anyone. You have, it's not selfish to look after
it
yourself.
is not.
You have to look after yourself, prioritize yourself, put yourself first so that you can
Mhm.
fill your cup.
Yeah,
So it overflows
yeah,
and everything around you flourishes from that overflow.
yeah.
But if you're empty, there's just nothing to give to anyone. And Chad, on that note, I want to give you this. We are at 5 o'clock. I want to give you this minute to let people know where they can find you. Friends, if you're watching Chad, you can follow him on Instagram. He is tagged on Facebook, or I will tag him so that you can reach out to him on social media, and he's on LinkedIn as well. Reach out, set up a time, have go talk to him. Honestly, I think therapy, it has to do with your mental well-being. Chad, I've been looking after myself. I mean, I know my mistakes, I know my faults, I know that I need accountability. I can't make it to the gym otherwise. I have bought a treadmill, I don't get on it because I know what my weakness is. I need accountability, I need an accountability partner. So I have that personal trainer, and I spend that time in the gym. For your mental well-being, this is serious. If
Yeah.
you need someone, you have to utilize a therapist who is someone you pay, you go and you spend time with them. Pour out your heart, discuss your feelings, let someone guide you. I think that's what, for physical health, that's what physicians are for. When you don't feel well, you go see a doctor. This is for your mental well being, for your emotional well being. It's important to take care of your well being so that your cup is full and so that the overflow can nourish and nurture your friend and your loved ones around you. Because if you have nothing internally left, you have nothing to give. So, on that note, Chad, here, please go ahead.
So, guys, just if you'll see at the bottom of the screen, if you go to my website, youcanlivenow.org, there is a free audiobook and free mini course on learning to trust yourself. That was one of my biggest struggles coming out of my grief journey, was trusting my intuition again. And that can be the same for a lot of other people. So starting to build back who you are and build back that confidence in yourself is going to be so important for your journey.
Chad, thank you for being on Heart to Heart with Saima. And it was a pleasure. And I wish you all the best. I wish you, I'm sending these positive vibes your way so
Thank
that
you so much.
you
It was my pleasure.
find the healing that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you for being a guest here.
Awesome.
Hey, friends, as always, thank you for carving out the time to hear what was shared on today's podcast. If this inspired you to take the next step in your journey, then I want to invite you to join my email list by emailing vip@simadillon.com. Let's stay in touch so I can reach out to you once in a while. You can respond back, reach out to me. Let's become friends. And of course, if you know this podcast will help someone, then let's help me change lives. Take 30 seconds to simply share the link to the podcast in a text or post it on social media. And I'll be so grateful to you in you helping me out. Have an awesome day. And thank you for being here.